Now, good evening. I'm Dharmendra Gordon. This is Vegan Synergy Meditation Meeting number 24. Welcome everybody who's here and everybody who will be listening to the recording later. I invite everybody to just stop the world and get off the world train, whatever train you've been on and that brought you here, and say thank you to the conductor and bid them on to do, and watch the train go down the tracks. And I invite you to just be in your space where you are, and just be aware of your senses and what they're taking in, what you're taking in visually, with eyes open or closed. Either way, you're still taking in visual information, and what you're taking in through your ears, whatever sounds are in the space, and what you're sensing in your physical body, and also outside of your physical body, the temperature and your contact that you're making with whatever surface you're, I assume you're sitting or laying. If you're standing there, whatever your feet are touching. And just there's nothing to do for the next few minutes except just relax and be, and just take in the story of the life code that we're going to be diving into this evening. Here's the story. The 13th life code is the theme of entering. The spectrum of consciousness goes from discontinuity to attunement to the whisperer. The theme of the 13th life code concerns the essence of what it means when new information is entering the storehouse of impressions. It is about the very nature itself of the capacity to enter either the same old repetitive information, or to enter information that is new and fresh, alive and vital. And all of this is based on direct, immediate, lived-through experience, and what is stored in the memory banks as a result that may be useful in navigating through future similar experiences. Although the key in this life code centers in listening deeply to one's experience in order to extract what is most relevant for the benefit of the collective, the degree of sensitivity coupled with the depth of awareness will determine what exactly it is that will enter into the collective pool of experiential wisdom to serve the needs of future generations. And this is why the emphasis in the entitling of this life code is on the process of entering itself, as whatever is entering that pool of collective wisdom is that which will serve as the foundation upon which future generations will build their experiential knowledge base for coping with all the vagaries of life that they are no doubt going to encounter. At the shadow level, we are dealing with a life lived in a very mechanical way, with fixated and inflexible points of view, held firmly in place by tightly held belief patterns, that is completely discontinuous with the ever-changing flow of events happening all around them at all times and in all places, that doesn't allow for any change in their inner world. One, for the most part, remains so completely oblivious to the great majority of incoming sensory information that on an emotional level, it brings to mind the way a rock interacts with the water flowing around it in a river. And it is not that they are not having experience and being impacted by it, but because the experience they are having isn't being taken in and properly digested and metabolized, there's no growth in terms of consciousness, whether of a mental, emotional, physical, or essential nature. And if something is not metabolized, there's no growth in terms of consciousness. And if something is not growing, then by law it is decaying. And one can only imagine what kind of effect that would have, not only on an individual aura, but also on a collective that is made up of individuals that adhere to a certain ideology or dogma or way of being that is enacted through ever so repetitive and ritualized behavior patterns that accept very little variation outside of the so-called norm. This type of situation creates a kind of hyper-focused tunnel vision towards life in general, where very little learning takes place, and only serves to perpetuate the highly stereotyped modalities of behavior the individual or group is supporting. Hence, this type of activity will unknowingly be sowing the seeds of discord between itself and its adherents, and every other similar type of entity that supports different tenets to uphold its ideology, dogma, or way of being. It is useful in this context to have the understanding that what you enter also enters into you. And hand in hand with this realization arises the first instance of that type of discernment that is capable of beginning to separate the fine from the coarse. And so we enter into the frequency band of attunement, which is the gift frequency of this life code. That ability to resonate in synchronicity with whatever is occurring in one's present and immediate field of awareness. Out of this arises all kinds of variations of the process known as taking action that is in harmony with the times. When action is taking place in that way, the experience tends to carry a sense of total engagement and hence is naturally self-fulfilling and complete in itself. And also, as it is thoroughly digested, it becomes a fertile field within which new growth and development will occur in terms of the expansion and diversification of the collective pool of resources from which to draw upon to meet the challenges of the future. And in this sense, is the term attunement applied as one is able to discern between a wide range of possible responses to any situation that is arising, that one response that is most appropriate to the demands of the moment. This requires an ever-increasing ability to enter into the position of another, and from there to see what is being asked for. Listening from the heart brings whatever resources are most appropriate to bear upon any situation directly through the consciousness of one's presence, as it is that presence that serves as a field to hold and support whatever is occurring to unfold in the most optimal way according to its own unique path of evolution. As the skill of attuned listening deepens, the ability to enter into the experience of another transcends the human condition altogether, inevitably in the natural course of its development, and reaches out to eventually include all forms of life on this planet. This is only natural, as contained within man's DNA are the traces of consciousness experience left by every form of life that has been evolved in the journey of consciousness development needed to ultimately arrive at and sustain human intelligence. This life code is part of what has come to be known as the G center in the human body graph that contains all of our genetic codons and is responsible for what goes into the makeup of our identity in terms of love and direction. The 13th life code deals with the direction that points to the past and the degree of integration of that past in terms of how well we will be able to deal with the future we are moving into. It is also part of the collective stream of consciousness, and as a result, we are able to tap into the collective memory. And as we do so, not only are we plugged into a vast storehouse of impressions deriving from all of humanity's experience as a whole, but we at the same time contribute all of our experience into that storehouse. This is a vital and necessary exchange that contributes greatly to the evolutionary impetus that drives humanity forward in the striving for an excellence in all fields of endeavor that is constantly surpassing itself. And just as we are able to tap into the total field of resources accumulated through our past experiences, we are also capable of stepping into the frequency band of our future potential that exists in the totality of all being through this life code by learning to synchronize our consciousness with higher forms of intelligence existing in this vast universe of which we are a part. The more through meditation we are able, through witnessing, to dissolve and deactivate our conditioning, the higher and more refined the vibrational frequency of our aura becomes. And as a result, the more easily we are able to pick up on the signals originating in and moving through the field in which our superconsciousness is functioning, and has always been functioning, whether we are aware of it or not. And this brings us into the realm of the siddha of this life code, functioning through the presence of the higher self, which is named here as the whisperer. We have all heard of various types of animal whisperers capable of entering into understanding and as a result being able to interpret the messages arising from a living being that is other than human. And with that principle in mind, this siddha unlocks the very source of the whispering capacity in man to be able to enter into communication with any and all forms of intelligence existing within the multidimensional nature of the universe. In fact, humanity as a whole draws upon many higher forms of intelligence to spur it along its ever-ascending evolutionary journey in order to upgrade all facets of its shared collective existence. But that all takes place outside of the consciousness reach of the vast majority of human individualities making up the total population of this planet. The focus of this siddha deals with those individuals and groups who are fully conscious of and in communication with these and other higher forms of intelligence, including those forms that may operate completely outside the realm of human affairs, but still within the realms of the wisdom, scope, and scape of the universal life force. As eventually it serves man's higher destiny in terms of his consciousness evolution to broaden the degree of his awareness to include all inhabitants of this universe, not only in terms of their unique individuality, but also including their collective existence, both within their species and with other species of varying degree of consciousness. It is truly amazing the capacities that actualize once an individual is able to move past all the conditioning, burdening, and as a result, distorting the natural functioning of his multidimensional consciousness. What could take place on this planet if the majority of individuals had done the work of deconditioning and then developing those latent capacities to their full potential? We at present can only imagine. But nevertheless, there are a growing number of groups existing in the world today that are exploring, discovering, and actualizing many, if not all, in some form or other, of those latent potentialities of higher consciousness in man. So I'm sure that was an earful. Thank you for listening. And now we can open the space and begin our meeting. Yeah, so for me, I'll start as always in the shadow space of this. It's funny because an old circle of of what was at one time really close connections made contact with Amir and I this week, and we hadn't really had contact with them for quite a long time. And it was very interesting because the circle we used to be into with them and used to share with them, it just kind of came across that they were still in that same circle, and Amir and I couldn't really sync with it the way we used to. It was like we became part of a new circle, I guess you could say. We entered, that's why, hence entering, the term entering. We were no longer a part of the circle that these old connections were coming from. And but it did touch a place in me that a kind of discordant place in me that when I was in that circle, there was a lot of very discordant things that happened, and very hurtful things for both against both Amira and I. And so it was really interesting to experience that, because you experience this kind of discordant energy when you're sort of out of touch with your truth, and you're kind of sort of like connecting in the shadow aspect of this life code, when you're connecting for reasons other than the sharing of your truth and the being in your truth and the standing by your truth. Then you kind of lose touch with your true heart space. And so it was just an interesting space to be in, and have to feel that really the discontinuity that these people that we were connecting with were still kind of they were very close to certain aspects that we were sharing about veganism and other things, because we being vegan, and they aren't, and they still smoke cigarettes, and they still do a lot of things that kind of like an old gang we used to relate to. And so I don't know, not only did it feel like the life that moved us along, the flow of life that moved us along, kind of bypassed them, and in a kind of discontinuity loop where they weren't allowed to be a part of that and grow further. For whatever reason, everybody grows as much as they can, as quick as they can, or not. And there's a lingering sense of maybe a sadness in there of what might have been, what could have been, because there was a lot of love shared in that circle between us at one time, but now there's only a kind of wariness of being and heightened awareness of the old games, that circle, to be part of that circle, you had to kind of be willing to play those games. So really, the energy that I'm that's sort of there right now. If you just feel my heart, it's kind of a heaviness there that I guess it's okay to have that in me. It's okay to have that in my heart, because it's just a remembrance of it's part of what my life is about. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with anything we go through in our life, and so yeah. So that's kind of what happened for me this week. So it really is it really is, the more we do these life codes, the more I'm finding uh, examples, really just almost like finding me to show me the life code for the week through my life, through how I experience my life. It's really interesting. So I'll go on silence. Whoever would like to share next. That's what occurred for me, and as you can see, I've got the life code up, so everybody can kind of stay in touch with that as we move along.
I'll go, but I'm gonna keep my my video off because I'm laying in bed. I didn't sleep much last night. But that I had the similar experience as you in my social life and in my work life, of not really having, I would say, a continuity of the entire vision of what I feel I am here to create in life. In that, for instance, my work that I was in, it was, a lot of people would love to have the job as a designer, visionary. Everyone like wants you're like the hero who's going to make the system or the design for the system to make it work. And it's like really fun to think about. I love being creative on that kind of processing experience. But and I learned a lot about design and designing worlds, designing ideas and lives, and it was really fun. But it was in a world that I'm not interested in, which was dry and doesn't have my peers in it. Didn't have my husband or partner in there. So I was like in a work world, telecommuting alone for many years and not really meeting my peers. And so there was like a really like a sadness of disconnection, or so I just didn't feel like my vision was fully lived out until I finally left that group, like raised my standards. And also I've been a traveler, and I've hopped from group to group to group because I didn't really feel that any of the groups felt right for me. And maybe I'm just not someone who follows the group codes. And like my group in Northern California, where I'm back now, my old group here, like I don't really feel to associate or connect with them, because, and that's also why I left too, because they didn't fully resonate with how I like to communicate and relate and associate with people. So a lot of them are still in that same kind of vibe, and very negative, and like really thinking it's fun to be elitist and cut people down. And I never really liked it, and it was like the group code almost, and I didn't understand why I didn't enjoy hanging out and connecting with all these people until I finally left and met some people who liked the music that I like, for one. Like I think music says something a lot, and who danced like me, and who like to be nice and care for the world like me. Like I met in Tulum, Mexico. There's a lot of really nice people who care for the world there, who have like good hearts and stuff like that, and helped me reunite with my heart. but also, so yeah, there was that. I didn't feel whole at that point, so it was like I had to discontinue, and but also there was like it just never continued into a space of wholeness. So if that makes sense, I hope that's kind of working with the shadow side of that city or that gene code. Thank you. I'm done.
Yeah, that totally. There's a lot of feeling of um, what may have one time evoked a kind of melodious sense in you. It sounds like there's a lot of discordant discordant notes there, and that's exactly what the shadow is about. And that discordance creates a discontinuity with the life force and with what the lessons of the life force are trying to convey to you. That's what the discontinuity is. Discontinuity with the learning experience, and how to how to distill out of that what you need and bring it into your memory so it's useful for you in your future. So we tend to get also on the other use of the word discontinuity, we tend to become discontinuous with things that don't keep producing that for us because we have to keep growing. So it sounds like that, and similar to what I was and Amira were experiencing this week. So yes, it's totally totally in tune with what we're talking about.
Hello. I'll go. um, mm, Thank you. And also, I just wanted to um, welcome and to pay my respects to Kali. Is that how you say your name? I'm sending my love and my light and my blessings to you and your whole family. Thank you, Denise. That was super, really beautiful and really interesting. I wanted to ask quickly as well. You said you're in Northern California. Are you near Mount Shasta?
No, I'm probably about 5 hours away from, not Shasta. I'm near San Francisco, or 4 hours away from Shasta. I'm not sure how far Shasta is. 3 hours maybe.
Okay. Somewhere that I'm super drawn to at the moment. There's a lot. I'm sure it's a very interesting place in many different ways. But I definitely feel like a really strong draw to California in particular.
Oh, I love Shasta. Yeah.
Oh,
it's
you
a
do?
totally different vibe there than San Francisco. And I'm sure it's grown a lot too. So yeah.
Wow.
We haven't been there for 10 years, so.
Wow. Yeah, I guess this week has been so explosive spiritually for me. It's been ridiculous and really beautiful, and I'm just feeling every day this more and more of a call to Mount Shasta, to California, to LA, and you talk about music as well. Like I feel like the discords, I guess it's normal at this point of the shadow to be a little bit like my words aren't really flowing. So I'm feeling my way into it. I guess to start off with, this week has been really interesting, and the last couple of weeks in terms of like the people who are leaving my life. And some of them are slamming the door behind them. Some of them are kind of quietly walking their way out, and whatever, it doesn't bother me. Actually, it really doesn't bother me, any of it. It's all good, it's all fine. I'm totally happy with how things are flowing, because I'm just coming into that space in myself, just of acceptance and just living in so much more of alignment with my high self and my true calling, my mission, my vision. And the more that I share that with the world, the more people are probably triggered by it, don't like it, they leave. Totally happy with that. Like, if people however they want to live their lives, I'm not here to try and force anything on anybody, but I'm just living my truth, and I want to help other people share their truth and share their light. So I guess in the sense of like the discontinuity, there is kind of a continuity through it as well, that just in the sense of, I've seen this happen so much throughout my life. And as you were saying, Denise, I'm kind of similar in the way that I travel a lot, I connect with certain groups, I'll leave because I don't feel connected, or I'll come back because I do, come back to Sydney in the last couple of months after about 9 months away maybe. And it's really interesting kind of re-entering the flow here and seeing what is part of my future and what isn't. And I guess I'm just really grateful for just the way things are happening, just the way things are unfolding. It's all perfect in its imperfection. And I feel now, after the last few weeks especially, I feel now I'm able to really see so clearly what is happening and what is going on and what's happening within me and within other people. And Diamangio, you mentioned the rock and the water, and yeah, I'm definitely seeing that more clearly, aspects of myself that are not really absorbing the goodness of the water, but also the fact that I'm really coming into that space of digesting and metabolizing all what's good for my soul. And the things that are coming up spiritually for me at the moment, it's mind-blowing. It's so beautiful, and it just feels so right in my heart. It feels so full of love, and I'm so grateful. I'm so excited. So that's for me for now.
Yeah, I'm struck, Lucy, just by the sheer audacity of your spirit in the face of what you're up against. Because I can see by the expression on your face as you're describing what you're describing, you're right up against it, whatever it is. You have definitely been right at the base of it, well, that's what, rock climbers say when they're doing a vertical climb and they're right at the face of it. And they don't know if they're even going to be able to make the next move, because it's so intense and it's so awesome, but in a very challenging way. It's awesome. And that's what I see is your body is telling me, but your spirit is beautiful because it's very connected with your heart, and you have a kind of unflagging, indefatigable, ability to just carry on and keep moving forward with whatever it is your vision is, and you have to have that. You have to. I mean, if you really want to know what this life has for you and the secrets it has for you, you have to be like that. You have to get right in the face of it, and just literally, like a beaver chewing on it, making his dam by chewing right through the wood. Just get right in the face of it and do it, or you won't get the secrets out. And it really takes that degree of engagement. So that's what I'm getting from what you're saying. It's really nice to see. I hadn't seen as strongly as until today, because I think before you were just kind of like, wondering if you really wanted to face all that and really take it all in and really handle it and really see it for what it is and really just stand there with it, stand in the face of it. But you're in the face of it now. I can see it. So that's beautiful. That's what it takes. That's what a true spiritual path takes. You need that kind of experience, and you also need that kind of attitude to handle it. So very beautifully said. And it's also very much a good illustration of what discordance, when that comes up in your soul, and you got to deal with it, and how we're discontinuous with the life that's flowing towards us in different ways. And it's so easy sometimes, and you're not doing it, but it's so easy to put the blame out there instead of just own it and just take it and just be right in the face of that, whatever that discordance is. Because if you're experiencing it, obviously it's for you. So there's a reason for that. And anyway, that's beautiful. Nancy, do you have anything you want to illuminate us with this evening?
That's sweet of you to ask. Probably, but I turned my video off because I'm feeding my cats.
Yeah.
And I watched last week's video and I was moving around a lot in it and I felt horrible. I thought it was just so rude. So that's why I put my picture up and I'm listening. I've got it right here and I'm just absorbing. So as soon as I can settle down, I'll come back, but I'd love to listen more. Thank you.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, and you're good at, you know how to do this stuff too. So when you come back, you'll probably cover where this plus wherever we're at the moment and just go through all of it. So, because you know how to, you know, the winding road we do here.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm listening though. I'm still engaged and involved.
Yeah, sure, cool. I don't know if anybody else wants to speak at the point of the shadow. I'll give it a moment, and if not, we'll jump to the gift because everybody else has spoken. Okay, so I think what I'll do, and this is now I'm starting to enjoy having this PowerPoint up because now I can open up the gift here of attunement of the life code of entering into attunement. You can literally make that into a sentence. But I'm going to read what it says here because that's kind of a nice way to go into it. And hand in hand with this realization arises the first instance of that type of discernment that is capable of beginning to separate the fine from the coarse. And so we enter into the frequency band of attunement, that ability to resonate in synchronicity with whatever is occurring in one's present and immediate field of awareness. And it's so true. It's so funny because you can be sitting there and going through, you know, some of the, just you could be in your own space and going through all kinds of profound and maybe turbulent emotional stuff. But if you know, if a bag of coins drop from the sky right in front of you and hit the ground with a loud crash, you'd immediately be in the present moment and you'd be absolutely attuned to that experience. That's one way of saying what it means very clearly. What it is to come into attunement. It's kind of a harsh way, but a lot of times in the beginning, when we're first breaking through all that discontinuity with the life force and the discordant vibrations that have been inculcated into our beings surreptitiously through our conditioning, very, you know, all over the place, so that we've been taught how to be little discordant vibrators, and wherever we go, discordance is, you know, emanating off of us and touching everybody around us, unless something very sudden and powerful and moving happens. And then all of a sudden we're brought into a full stop and we're just in the present moment, and all of a sudden, if we could hang out in that moment just a hair longer, we'd be able to hear more, we'd see much more, many different, more differentiations in size and shape and color, and the sounds would have short and long and high and low and soft and hard and grizzly and smooth and so many, and just how we would feel, the world of feelings that would come to us in that moment. We might start sensing the trees around us and the birds in the trees, and even getting a sense of the ground, and, you know, and how it feels, and the energy coming from the different parts, whether it's concrete or nature or grass or garden or flowers or whatever it is. This is kind of what I'm doing right now, is kind of shifting, kind of describing myself, putting myself in a discontinuity, but then it's slowly attuning to my environment. And so this all of a sudden, it starts to literally bring me from this place where I'm contracted all down inside myself, literally like I'm doing with my posture right now. And I'm sunken down into the pit of my own emotional traumatization. which has happened to all of us. Doesn't matter who you are, every single human being. But then all of a sudden, that immediate experience, not only it just throws me out, but if I can just manage to stay out for a moment and just stay with being out and just let go of whatever was going on, because there's nothing I could do about all that was down in there anyway. So now I'm just slowly attuning into this moment, and this moment literally kind of opens up for me and invites me into it. And all of a sudden, it's like I'm allowed, I'm accepted, I'm supported to be present here on this planet as myself, with all my senses functioning and exchanging, because not only am I taking information in because I've entered a whole different experience in this attunement, but also the experience is taking me in. So, and I think that's something we don't realize is what is it to be felt by your environment? It's not something we think about a whole lot. We only think about how does it feel to me? Well, how do you feel to it? How do you feel to the environment you're in? Do we ever think of that? Because if we, and I don't even think I've ever thought of that, but I mean, if you think about that, then all of a sudden it invites you into everything in that environment. And then you start to get your first glimpses of what it's like to be one with the squirrel in the tree, or one with the ants crossing the sidewalk in front of you, or one with the person across the street who's haggling with the fruit seller, or whatever. I mean, however you like. But as you do that, it's very easy to sense what that might feel like because we've done it, whether we know it or not. There's times in our life we've been very attuned. We just didn't call it out and say, oh, I'm very attuned right now, and everything is touching me. Everything is moving through me. Just like it is, I get to experience that as me. So that's kind of how attunement happens. You literally become what it is you're witnessing, because you're not discontinuous with the life force anymore. The life force is a conveyor of continuity. It's a conveyor of interconnectedness. So as you tune into it, you become connected with everything that it serves, and it serves everything. I'm starting to head into the Siddha. I won't go there yet, but it's like that's kind of the range of the gift of what attunement can open you to out of that discontinuity and that discordantness. And so to tie that into my experience this week, the minute I didn't enter into that old circle, I felt so grounded. And I was even mentioning to Amira, I said, Amira, after not getting hooked back into that old way and that old circle, I feel very grounded and I feel very full of my own energy, because in the past it used to drain me and it used to get me very scattered because there's a lot of very weird vampire-y, spiritual vampire-y weirdness going on in that world, which is inevitable when you get into spirituality. You're going to meet a lot of vampires too that are pretending to be spiritual, and they really just want to take advantage of your vulnerability and then pretty much drain your energy. But I didn't do that this time, and so I guess you could say I felt very attuned to my own power again, my own self again, very much in touch with me, instead of wanting something that I thought I needed these other people to get. And I realized I didn't need them anymore to get in touch with my own power. I was centered and okay in myself with that. So that's kind of how all of what I was sharing became my experience this weekend. It was an attunement into myself, which gave me such a just so much more relaxed in my own environment, and realizing that I guess the best way out of anything is right through it. To get right through whatever it is, even if it's a tight and narrow space, you have to be present. You have to be attuned to it. You have to be present in it. And so there's no escaping anymore into maybe a pleasant diversion that turns into a not so pleasant diversion later that old circle offered. But just stay with whatever it is whatever I'm processing, whatever I'm going through, and just stay attuned with my own center, with my own sense of power. Because when I'm present here and not subtly desiring that I might need something from somewhere else, because I think I need that to get it when it's inside me in the first place. So it's that shift back into, so the attunement process is also about coming back home and realizing you're the gift you're looking for. I mean, that's just, the point is you're the gift you're looking for. It's you. You're the one who's going to be the greatest gift to yourself. And that's the only way it works. It's the only way it can work. Um, Nobody can give you anything of themselves. It's only you who can give of yourself to yourself. In terms of, your fundamental, identity and realization of it. So, and everything that implies, which is everything, experience. So it's everything, even though it doesn't sound like it, it is. So I'll just leave it open right there.
Woo, this is bringing up a lot for me. I don't even think I have this one in my my sequences. But yeah, actually some of my workshops, I have called them attunements, because I help people become attuned with their bodies, because that's what I've been learning myself with my meditation. And I can start with, talk a little bit more about that in a bit, but one of the great stories of being attunement and being connected to nature was when I lived in Maui and I was body surfing. I would body surf a lot. And one time the wave completely took me up and tossed me around, and in a way that I was like, whoops, okay. And I just went with it, and I just allowed myself to be ragdoll. And I literally felt like a piece of seaweed, and I went around the wave backwards and landed on my feet. I don't know how, but it was the most incredible experience to feel the wave like as you're one with it completely, and to land flat on your feet. Like, it was just incredible. It was like I was a piece of seaweed in the wave. So that was just like, I really felt what it was like to be earth, water in the moment, and in that flow. And then the other thing is, like, in my meditations and my song, the attunement I do is a chakra attunements, and I do it with like the Shruti box or the harmonium, and we basically drone. I play the drone, like the C, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and from every chakra. So chakra 1 being the C, the root, and then humming with the chakra, and then experiencing the clearing and the cleansing, and doing that for all, and then like the colors and the imagery and the feeling, and then the invocation of the chakra, and then doing that up every single chakra. It's like, after doing that, you are so attuned to the space. You feel like you're melting with the fabric of reality, and you're totally in your bliss body and in your third eye, and you're just buzzing, like the particles of your body is like music. And then you feel like music with the environment, and and when you turn it off, like the drone or the sound, and stop singing, it's the most incredible piece. Like, you can hear so much more than before. So, and then I also, with my meditations, when I become, without the music, when I become attuned with my body, I can feel the difference between not being attuned, which is kind of like the disease that I have is scoliosis, and it's basically my kundalini being off and blocked and making it actual malformation of my body. So I've been studying that, and how I was not attuned to myself or my environment or my desire of what I want to be, like, having jobs where people didn't necessarily understand me, or being in groups where people didn't understand me, or we just didn't resonate on the same level, and then me still trying to make myself be there. It was so uncomfortable physically. I wasn't in the tune of my own harmony of my body. As great and as much as I love, all those people, and they taught me so much, they weren't my vibe, and thus my body couldn't be my vibe, and I couldn't attune to myself. And that's why I went into the deep meditative state, so I could remember what it is to be attuned to my inner vibration, and thus my physical vibration. So kind of like the quantum shift reality of, like, how do the particles or the atoms within your body oscillate. and what's the tune, and how do you attune to that with breath work and reconnecting with yourself, and realizing that we are this music and that we can be in harmony and attunement with ourselves. And that's my dream of creation, and I don't even understand why it's not in my gene keys, because I so feel it so deeply. Thank you for listening. I'm done.
Well, and it's rare that I'll quote somebody, but I really like what Richard Rudd, who's the creator of the Gene Keys, and he's very much instrumental in the evolution of what I'm doing with his work into my work, which is what we're doing here. But he says you don't have to, it doesn't matter if you have these, imprinted at the moment of birth or not. It doesn't matter, because we are we have all the codes in us. And that's why there are so many different types of meditation techniques in the world, because there's one for every single code. And there's even more, because there's more than just these codes. We live in and we'll get to that when we get to the Siddha, but we live in a universe that's very magical and populated by very many different kinds of beings. So there's meditations for even tuning into different kind of beings, not just our own chakra system and codes, but also, and that in itself is a vast undertaking for any human being to do. But they're all there. So it's just a matter of, and that's what specifically we do in these meetings, is help people to learn how to. I see your hand raised. 1 second, Nancy. But that's what we do here. We go in together, and I don't want to. I'll take back the word teach. I open a space in which we can all discover together how to tune into these frequencies, and go into it as in a group exploration. And as a collective where we all support each other, and all our intelligences are part of a greater intelligence that's kind of, maybe that's what's teaching us, is that greater intelligence. I'm saying maybe, but I know for sure that is definitely what is doing it. But I'm going to let Nancy go because her hand's up. Did you know your hand was up, Nancy?
Oh, talking, I forgot to unmute myself.
Okay.
Let me lower my hand. Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Hello? Hello?
We hear you. We are
Okay.
giving you a thumbs up. Do you not see us?
Okay. I looked at the word discontinuity, and I kind of broke it apart because the etymology of words is fascinating to think about. And I also did that with universe. And dis means against, and then you've got continuous unity. So the concept of unity and that it be continuous is really a norm. And when there's discontinuity, it's because there's something wrong, And I think in terms of our own experience in our life, I feel like in some ways, being a vegan, I've learned so much about unity and humility and my place in the world and the unity of life. But inside, sometimes I've never felt so tumultuous, living in a world that is so un-vegan, and anyway, so, and then wanting to be relatable, wanting to reach people and help people, for God's sakes, at least stop eating animals. I'm like, that's such a core issue. So anyway, I digress. And then I looked the word universe, and if you think about it, it's like one verse, as if they're, recognizing this thread, this binding thread through the whole thing. And I thought, and I just looked it up, and it was Pythagoras first used the term cosmos for the order of the universe, and then it became modern language in the 19th century. So it was really, I think the origins of even the word universe would have to be very spiritual, and somebody that was attuned to what was really going on in life, that because they didn't have telescopes, or microscopes, and so I just was, those things were kind of bouncing around as I'm listening to what people are saying, and so profound when you said that we're our own savior. I mean, that to understand that alone, if that would be like the only thing I feel like I can understand in life, that would make such a huge difference in all of our experiences, you know? Because like I was just realizing, I came in the meeting and I was so stressed because of some of the issues that were going on, and I was so triggered, and it was just like knocked me off my center. And then I realized I kind of had to calm down and be a part of the meeting, you know. And so it's very beautiful coming to this space that is really just based on unity and love and compassion. And there's no victims, you know. I realized, like, we have to own where we're at completely, you know. But that doesn't mean that we don't go to get help. It doesn't mean that we don't, you know, we're also very connected and bound, and we can influence each other quite a bit. So if I were to hurt somebody, I wouldn't say, well, it's your problem if you're hurt. I would apologize, you know. And anyway, so I was just thinking that I think it's very timely to what I was expressing before everybody came in the meeting, of the you know, the conspiracy wars going on in the vegan community. It's very, very sad to me. I'm kind of heartbroken over it, because like I said, it's possible, you know, but we just have this golden opportunity now to promote plant-based vegan food with what's happening. Those slaughterhouses are closing. I mean, woohoo! You know, and the ugliness of it all is being so exposed, and the workers that are there, you know, there's human beings that work there that are, you know, it's demanded of them that they have in their horrible job. Anyway, so I felt like, you know, even though the unity of how to bring about this world that we want to create, you know, that I feel like it's our birthright, you know, to live in peace and to live in harmony and to truly be able to love each other, not because of personalities, not even because we agree. You know, like, unity has nothing to do with agreeing with anybody. It's finding that common ground, and that common space that we ultimately have is really within us, you know, as human beings. And so I always, you know, for a long time I felt like, you know, well, vegan would be the hope of the world. And now I'm thinking, God, vegans like not the hope of the world at all. You know, we have such a great opportunity, and we're like blowing it, you know. But I do want to put a plug in, if you don't mind, for this program that right now it's in the area that I live in, but it can be done anywhere. And in taking advantage of this time, it's called plantpoweredmeatmonth.com. And you just, I'm looking also for people to go to the site and click on it to bring it more into Google Analytics. Not that it has anything to do with what I'm talking about, other than the fact that, you know, this is really a time to so much more, you know, we need unity so much more than ever. And I'm very sad that it's not there, you know. Thank you. I'm done.
Yeah, you brought up a host of good points, as you always do. That's what I love about you, Nancy. I love your sharings, because it just, everything inside me goes bing, bang, bong, bing, bang, boom, oh yeah, yeah, okay. But the thing that, well, a couple of things hit me first about the continuity, which is with unity, but you're in a space with it, so you're out of being with the unity. So that's beautiful. I love that. That's pretty much the essence of the shadow. The second point, which I think was a great point to make, etymology of words is definitely cool. And then the second point was about, yeah, this thing about the lack of attunement that's starting to grow in vegan communities, because I think what's being exposed is that for a lot of people, veganism was just another hopefully way to kind of escape and maybe find a way to be relieved of the suffering that this planet generates. And there's nothing wrong with that, but what it's doing now is that people, as they're settling into their veganism, all their old habits of the way they are, which means the veganism is not really getting in very deep, it's not transforming them. So it was just another fad or club, and again, this life code is all about clubs. circles you enter into, like I was saying at the beginning of the meeting. And so just another club, another circle they entered into. The veganism has to come from a decision from within, from a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all life, and the desire to relieve the suffering and bring justice to all beings, that all beings have a right to exist on this planet and thrive, period. End of story. Anything less than that is not truth. It's not in alignment with the truth, because the universe functions that way, or it wouldn't be here. It would continue to be here if it didn't function that way. It wouldn't be able to grow beings like us out of teeny tiny little cells. I mean, there's so much to be said in there about all
We're
that.
walking, talking mud, really.
Yeah, and a whole bunch of other things too. Angels
And
and
bacteria and viruses.
yeah, there's such a mix. We're everything from the highest to the lowest. So yeah, that's very interesting to be human. We're the bridge, the rainbow bridge, and that's the attunement that Denise was talking about. The rainbow bridge. In fact, in an earlier sharing I was having today with a group of individuals, it came up, this thing about using all 7 chakras and creating a process where first attuning all 7 chakras and then learning to go through and express through however you want, through your body or your voice or however, all 60. This will probably come in the future at some point. But first opening up all 7 chakras so that you get the whole range from shadow to siddha, because it's all in those 7 chakras, by the way. And I guess maybe that's what we're doing here. We're training that already. I didn't realize that. But we're doing it in one way. There's lots of ways you could do it. You could do it through dance. You could do it through singing. You could do it through architecture. You could do it through painting. You could do it through sculpting. You could do it through acting. You name it. Any of the arts. But we're doing it through just, I guess you could call it, shared experience. And we're kind of opening. We're kind of like the pioneers in this work. I don't think there's anybody that's ever done exactly what we're doing, which is going in and just opening these up and literally letting all of our chakras feel every single one of these life codes that we do every week. Because what I notice is each person, when they share, it's like we all kind of go through the range of each aspect as we do it, and it seems like we cover all of it. So it's really kind of beautiful what's opening up. And that just kind of came through. I wasn't even planning all that. I was really about the 2 points I was from Nancy about the discontinuity that's starting to happen, and conspiracy theories and all these mental trips that are starting to get into vegan areas, but also the beauty of the realization that with unity, but being in a dissonant space with it is really and what Lucy kind of just demonstrated is that you got to stand it firm in that space, because we're going to be tested through all our shadows. That's part of what being human is too, and it's the part maybe we don't want to do. We wish we could skip over, but we just won't be complete. There'll be a part of us that hasn't flowered if we don't do that. Strange as that may sound. And the shadows is where it's the mud that the lotus is going to grow out of. But there's a lot in that mud too that this lotus is going to take with it as of the lotus. So we have to find that too that's in there. Okay, enough.
Can I just, the one thing, is it good, the Wizard of Earthsea or the Earthsea trilogies? There's a movie about it too, where the hero of the story has to face his shadow head on, and it's this ugly, monstrous looking thing. And once he accepts that, and they actually have it in the movie, it's really cool how it's done and described, he becomes whole and powerful.
That is the story of any awakened being. I'll be the first to say guilty. That's exactly how it happens. You have to go in, you have to face the deepest, darkest part of yourself. And not only do you have to face it, you have to surrender and give up and give everything to it. And in that moment, it's. I won't give the secret away. The point is that's the ultimate challenge. The warrior, in the end, the greatest enemy is his own shadow. That's based on reality. That the story you're telling is a real story. It's not just a fantasy. It's the real thing.
So it's his or her warrior, the warrior, his or her shadow.
Exactly. But since I'm a he, and it happened to me, I was discussing me. I'm not a she. Although, what's in the other side of me is, but what's outside of me is the he. But and if you can ever, if we can ever find a way to talk from our insides, then I'll be a she and you can be a he. Okay.
We probably have been at some point in our evolution. I think to be having a conversation like this now, we've probably been all kinds of things.
Yep, that's part of the story of this life code. It was in the story I read at the beginning. Is anybody else wish to share of the gift of attunement?
Me. Oh my God, so much. There's so much in my head. I don't know how to let it all out. Firstly, I guess, as I said at the beginning, talking about how I'm seeing people reacting and behaving, it's really interesting. But I also just want to say, like, I guess there is that point of because I'm human, that slight judgment. But I also want to be clear that I'm as we're working on these shadows, as we're working on our egos, like, I'm really conscious of that, and I'm seeing so much and coming through that judgment. So I'm really feeling like just a sense of compassion for everybody. That's just where I'm at right now. And observation, and observation of, in this place of attunement, I'm really kind of being able to visualize and see how I'm affecting people and how I'm triggering things, and but also really feeling into that role of the alchemist, I guess, and being able to help heal, as well as trigger in more of like a lower vibrational kind of way, but really bringing it into a healing space and helping people heal themselves, as you say, like being your own shaman. And like, this is my friend Jess. I don't know if I introduced you earlier. I'm sorry. It's my friend Jess that I'm saying at this moment. Sorry.
Yeah. Hello, nice to meet you all.
As we were saying earlier, a lot of so we work together with Paradise Rising, which I've been building for the last couple of years, and now we're really shifting into a new space that's much more in alignment. It's about the arts, focusing on the arts, focusing on spirituality and growth as humans, as divine beings, and letting go of things that we have been doing for the last couple of years. So we've been running sharing circles, and a big part of that letting go process is understanding what you mentioned earlier about how I kind of tend to get into, well, I have in the past got into quite a stressed space of anxiety, of like feeling like the pressure of having to give people the right advice, or like having, I've got to have this disclaimer because what if I say the wrong thing and somebody goes and says something or does something, or we are our own shamans, we are our own healers. Like, it's all on us to do the work, to face that shadow and to integrate it and work on our egos and work on bringing everything into the light. And so letting go of a lot of those events that we were organizing, that we were running, I feel so much more in alignment, in attunement, and really seeing how it's shifting things so profoundly and so clearly. Like, it's so clearly defined, the polarization at the moment. Very much the letting go process is helping other people let go if they feel like we're not part of their journey. And as I said, that's totally fine. I'm no judgment on that. And no judgment on myself anymore, because if this had happened a couple of months ago, it definitely would have stressed me out a lot.
yeah but it's been great, because I think that you and me have definitely seen the shifts within Paradise Rising, and just kind of always kind of have that vision of that we wanted to focus on the arts and helping people kind of come to that sense of acceptance within themselves and going on their little journey. But yeah, like I think we've learned a great deal from it. Yeah, it's been good. So I'm like half asleep, so
it's all right. Yeah, it's definitely been a really interesting journey, and within the wider community of the whole vegan movement. I mean, kind of, you know, questioning recently, I guess, what is the movement? Does it even exist anymore? Does it, like, it feels like everything is so, it's just, everything's been blown apart over the last few months with this whole COVID thing, and including the movement. I feel there's but there is hope. I have so much hope, and I have a lot of hope for things shifting just in the way, just the direction that it all has to, and our place within it, or not even within it, without it. In a way, it's
without
like,
it,
we're just kind of now able to do our own thing, and the people that are drawn to us and the people that we work with are just gonna be the people in the groups that we're meant to. And it's not like, I think we, as I said, people have been drawn to the vegan movement with this hope of the community, the family thing, feeling a sense of belonging maybe, but realizing we're all human, and without acceptance and without letting go of judgment, you know, I follow people online, and I feel very spiritually very, very connected with people who aren't, I don't know if they're necessarily vegan, like people in the public eye that I follow very closely, because I feel a soul brother, like soul sister kind of connection with these people. But I have now been able to let go of, are they vegan? Are they, you know, like, it's so much less about that to me now. They are on their journey, and whether their veganism or whether their thing looks like my veganism or my thing, it's so much less about that to me now. It's just soul connection, and I can do so much better in things that I'm learning about, that they're probably, you know, quantum leaps ahead of me. So I'm not judging them, and I'm not judging myself anymore on those maybe discontinuous aspects, but in terms of the unity as well, like, I'm really coming into this place of, I'm feeling that unity consciousness in such a profound way. And maybe this is more sitter space stuff, but I'm really excited about feeling into what I feel before I might have thought of as like a telepathic communication, but now I'm just feeling this unity consciousness, like reading everybody's minds, and people are like, I feel like people are in my mind and reading what I'm going through, but it's all just an elevation at the same time, but we're at slightly different places. And it's so interesting. I'm just so fascinated. And I guess in terms of the music, as you were saying as well, Denise, and the attunement of our bodies with everything, it's interesting. It's just so fascinating how they all line up, like the chakras and the colors and the tones and all of that stuff, all the frequencies. I've been learning a bit more about how that works in sound healing and tuning chords. I've always had this love of like more minor key music and kind of discordant chords that turn into beautiful, more aligned, attuned sounds. I guess it's the alchemy of that and the shifting from the shadow space into the higher frequency or the higher, more aligned sounds. I'm not sure exactly how to say that, but I think you know what I mean. The balancing and all of that stuff. It's, yeah, I think I'm done. But I just wanted to bring that up, that I just find it so interesting. It's so cool.
Nice.
Totally.
That was a nice attunement. Mary has asked, she wants to speak, and just before she does, I want to say hello to Miles. Welcome, Miles. You just popped in. I'm so glad you're here. We're mid meeting. Amira has asked to speak, so I'm going to let her go. We're all doing sharings now, but after she's done, if I think everybody else has shared, if you since you probably indicated to me you've seen some of these before, we're in the middle of the gift, so if you want to share at that point, but I'm going to let Amira. Amira said she would like to speak right now. So Amira, I'm going to take you off mute. You can just go right ahead if you still want to speak.
Oh, Bob. Yeah. My God. And always, Lucy, shoot, girl. You always just get me. And so do you, Nancy. All you guys do. What am I talking? I'm not going to pick anybody up. But I have to follow Lucy, so I'm going to go with that because that's the last you and I are so similar right now in the world, because when you said the word observation, that's where you sold me. I knew exactly what that meant. And I totally went in tune with what you're talking, because you're, and I'm not going to go into about, I just want, this is my introduction because my night has been kind of a whirlwind in whether I wanted to talk or not. So anyways, but you inspired me. So I just had to share that. I'm going to go on, but observation, my life, and I'm just going to get right to it. I can't really call it a shadow because I don't see it as dark, but I see it as extremely challenging in my life right now on so many levels. I am being called forward I'm being called to step it up all over the place. And I'm totally cool with that. I'm 100 billion% cool with all of it. And I had to learn how to become a different kind of mom during this time. Most challenging of all, because I don't get to fix everything. I have to watch somebody go on her journey, and that's all I'm going to say about that. And I love her and respect her, and that's all I've tried to do. Anything she asked of me, I wanted to absolutely respect. Observation. Okay, activism, and Nancy, I can totally relate with you, and I totally agree. We got to, but there are some areas where aggressive, I'm still going to go with that I don't want to say aggressive, but I want to say really strong and powerful. There are some areas that activism still has to happen a little hard. But again, it's always, I feel that every individual has to get in touch with that activist within themselves, deep within. And we're talking about that on so many levels tonight. And however that plays out for you in the world, you have to honor that.
I totally agree with you.
Yes. And I absolutely, and I've always agreed with you, Nancy, by the way, your passion is to bring it in with food. And you should, because you're going to get like a massive amount of people, because people don't know how to fucking cook for themselves. People don't know how to take care, they don't know how to feed themselves, and they don't want to do the research. I'm sorry, does your friend not cuss, Lucy? I won't go on a rampage. I just, once in a while the F-bomb's going to drop. But
no, it's all good. We just resonated with what you said. So
Yeah.
What did I say?
We resonated with what you were saying.
Oh, very good. Lovely, even better. Thank you.
Not offended at all.
Not offended at all. Not offended.
Good. Well, I don't aim to offend, and it's like, but you know what? You talk about the observation, and I've had my shadow for a while now, but I really can't say I have shadows tonight, but I can share some shadows that I healed from recently. And like I said, one was a mother part with my daughter. I'm still working with that and what she's going through in her life. It's been very fascinating and interesting and challenging. And also the activism, for sure. Activism is really weird right now. Darby and I have been working on trying to shut down a slaughterhouse. about an hour from our house, and going out there and protesting because they're putting, you know, workers at danger. So, and they say vegans don't like humans. Really? We don't want to see the underpaid migrant workers that work in the slaughterhouse down there, one of the biggest slaughterhouses in the world, JBS. And, you know, that has areas all over, God knows where, slaughterhouses everywhere, you know, that they're endangering their workers. So yeah, so we hate humans? No, we're trying to help them out too right now. We're trying to be a voice. We're holding signs that your job is going to kill you. You know, what's happening in there is going to kill not just animals, but everybody. So, but, you know, and so anyways, and I don't want to get into it, but yes, I'm a terrorist and I'm a bad vegan for trying to bring about the truth. But, you know, the bottom line is, you know, my shadow is too, that sometimes I don't feel confident in myself. I don't feel like I'm doing the right thing. I don't feel like I'm doing enough. I don't feel like I'm, you know, and it's not really other voices. It's a lot of my own voices that wonder, you know, because I like to take things in that I hear around me that may not feel good in the moment, but I'm a sponge. So I can absorb something and it can come out years later or even days later, whatever, and give me a message that maybe, and to me, that's kind of like a little mini wake up call, or, you know, like a little nudge going, hey, maybe you should look into this. And I can give you an example is when I first started my All About Vegan page on Facebook, I was a loose cannon. I was poo-pooing all over the place. I was F-bombs left and right, gross, really nasty, because I was so angry. I was fresh and new as a vegan, and I was so angry at the world for not seeing that you can't say you love animals and eat them. You know, I'm the bad person. So anyways, my point is, that was a shadow for a very long time, and I no longer have that. So I guess what I'm trying to share is I've had so many shadows fairly recently that kind of all came together, and for some reason now they all make sense. And I'm in the middle of a shift on everything, on how I handle so many different aspects of my life. So it's very interesting. I've had some very interesting conversations out in public. In supermarkets, just yesterday at Sprouts Farmers Market, talking about going vegan to somebody. A guy who works there is scared to death, wearing a mask and gloves, and he's like, you know, against the wall if somebody passes by. He's trying to do his job. So we had this incredible talk. And I said, we just all have to start stepping it up and, you know, really getting our hearts. And anyways, it went on for like 10 minutes. Of course, I can't repeat it, but the gist of it was I just gave from my being to this person. I knew he ate meat, and I knew he was scared, and I tried to appeal to him in the best way I could. And I'm gonna not go on too much longer about this, but I think it just, right now I'm covering so many different realms in my life of being what I like to call heightened awareness, but it's like really more relaxed. You know, it's like, you know, shit's happening all over the place, but you're just gonna pay attention. You know, you're just gonna see what's needed. So anyways, yeah, it's an very interesting place to be right now. I love it. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. On that note, I'll just say, you know, when I hear from so many people saying they just want to go back to normal, I'm like, that ain't going to happen. And you're going to be so blown away by the difference. You know, what we are not, you know, no more, you know, or no more, or we're going to go down, damn it. Those are the only two choices. And that's what I stand for. And that's where I end. I love you guys.
So beautiful, Amira. As you were speaking, for some reason, I found myself really starting to see new dimensions of this life code. And I was thinking entering, and everybody's talking about shifting and old relationships ending and et cetera. And everybody's talking about it, especially us here, but I hear it in other meetings too. It's like it's becoming the theme of anywhere groups of awakening or with the intent of awakening in a peaceful way are happening. And I just see it, okay, so we're entering a new phase. And the discontinuity is we are becoming discontinuous with the old way, because we know the old way based on greed is self-destructive. It's going to self-destruct. And people who hang on to it are going to self-destruct. The way of the future is the way of, and by the way, the traditional name for this life code, I Ching hexagram, is the fellowship of man. That's what we're, man, woman. Okay, let's not get lost in the man thing. The fellowship of humanity. And that's what we're being attuned to. That's what we're being brought into attunement with, all of us here, and those of, we know who we are, and there's many of us growing everywhere now. And I just saw it when Amira was speaking and talking about her experience in the world and everything. Somehow behind it all, she was conveying somehow this other message of, yeah, we're entering into a new place, you know, where we have to even get down off our vegan high horses and go out and even put our arms around the slaughterhouse slaughterers and say, we feel you, bro. We know you don't have any other choice. You got to be in here. Heaven, my God, it must be the worst job in the world, and you have to do it. I mean, my God, holy cow, who would want to do, you know, and they have no choice because that's all they get, you know. And so we're really looking at, well, oh, you're compassionate and you're a vegan and you really are about peace. Well, what about the slaughterhouse worker? You know, that's where real compassion starts to happen.
I gotta say it real quick, because the numbers of suicides and slaughterhouse workers are really high and growing.
Have you ever been able to interview people? It would be a great little documentary to interview people who work in slaughterhouses.
Well, maybe that'll be something that somebody, now that you mentioned it, somebody's going to have to do that, because that's part of the attunement process. Because that's where we're at right now, and it's relevant. And yeah, we have to be attuned to every single aspect of humanity, and we have to embrace all of it. Just like we've been embracing our shadows the way we do here, we're eventually going to have to create a space where we embrace all shadow of all of humanity, because that's, I mean, we don't talk about that. That's the dirt, that's the down and dirty work that people like us are going to have to do, because we're kind of taking a step ahead. We're kind of jumping ahead of most people because of the work we're doing with shadows. But that just means at some point we're going to have to turn around and embrace everybody and teach everybody by our example, not by being on our high horses and preaching, by showing that it's safe to love your shadow, because it's the only way we move through it. So that's a good point too.
Can I just add something really brief? I promise?
Yes, really brief, because I want to invite Miles to speak. He just came in, and I want to give him a chance, because if he feels like it. But yeah, go ahead, brief.
I want to, before I forget, like I just loved Amira, everything that you said, and I totally get it and agree why aggressive activism has its place too. And I think it's really important that it's there, you know, animal liberation and really confronting people. And I actually do that more in Facebook and in like maybe more private conversations as well. But what I'm trying to find, because I am going out in public and I'm trying to make these events where people will actually want to come and enjoy eating vegan food. And I'm afraid, you know, I know if I do that, when they come and I start making them feel badly, they're not going to want to come back, you know. And so this is like my niche, but I am just as angry and brokenhearted as anybody. And what I do, because of that, it's actually hard. It's not easier for me to, you know, take the nicer sort of route. And what I'm also trying to do, I heard somebody say once that to be a tactful salesperson or be tactful with somebody is like to tell them to go to hell, but make it sound really nice in a way that makes them really want to go there. So I try to frame that aggression in ways that people can like relate to and listen to it, and, you know, expose all that stuff without, and it's not easy, because I feel like, I'm not going to say, pardon my French, I want to tell everybody who's eating animals to fuck off.
Thank you very much.
Somebody wearing a fur coat, I'm furious about. I haven't do that so easily, but at the same time, I want to reach them, you know, so I'm really trying to walk both sides. And that's why I said earlier, I feel like I'm kind of like a ping pong ball inside, because part of me wants to scream, you know, and then another person's like, no, I really want to help bring love into the world and tell people the same things, but I'm just trying to figure out how to frame it in ways that they'll get it. And sometimes it actually does work, but I absolutely totally get the aggressive activism. I think that is the only way social justice has ever moved forward, is by people demanding it and saying, and you know, saying no more. And you know, you can't compromise that. So I feel like it's all needed. I feel like both is needed. So okay, that my time is up.
It is all needed. I'm not going to go on too long because I'm very excited to see Miles, and I want to hear him share. But I want to say, Nancy, thank you very much for that, what you said at the beginning. But yeah, I think if I can sum it up, I think right now we all have to do our activism and leave it at that. Not compare it, not put a picture on it, don't put a face, don't put a label. Do what's in your heart. Nancy, you with food. Lucy, you with your spiritual energy, go for it. Just everybody. Denise, I want to say, right? I've only met you briefly. You with your spirituality, you guys just go for it. Don't compare. Don't think it has to be a certain way. Do what you feel right. I'm going to still get out there and kick some ass in my own way. Just the way I am. I was born that way, man. I've done it my whole damn life. I'm not going to change now. And I really like it. I was told to hate it my whole life. I was told it was bad. I was told the way I was, my forward mouth, my truth. All I ever did my whole life was speak the truth. And I stood up in my 60 years of life to some really insane assholes. I was raised around mafia, Hollywood, and politics. And that's all I got to say. So, yeah, I learned to be somewhat of a badass in the world. So that's the way it goes. I worked in casinos in Vegas. Yeah. So I dealt with the ugly out there in the world. So yeah, if I get a little passionate, let's say, about how I present cruelty, so be it. I'm not going to change for the world. My voice is their voice. If I really, let me tell you something. If I really spoke up for the animals, oh my God, nobody would be able to handle it. Because it would be screaming involved. Every emotion, every part of the being of that sentient being. Seriously. So on that note, thank you, Nancy, for that. And hi, Miles.
Yeah, and talking about attunement, there's a whole other side of attunement. Yes, and welcome, Miles. I invite you to speak if you feel like it. Like I said, we're in the gift of attunement, but don't let that stop you and go anywhere you want. We play with the themes because they seem to be tracking what's happening in humanity a lot right now. But it's also free form. You can share any shadow, any gift, you can do however you want. There is no rule. But,
Okay, thanks very much. How's my audio, first of all?
good.
Okay, good, because sometimes people have told me my audio is not very good, but if I stay close to the microphone, hopefully it sounds okay. So hi, everybody. My name's Miles. And Amira, you rock. You rock in your unique way, as I said in a post recently. And, you know, I'm a guy, obviously, you know, and I'm really starting to realize, and I'm speaking for myself, because I might get, 51% of the planet angry with me, all the guys. But honestly, I just don't, I realize now, as a man, I don't feel the intensity. It takes me a longer time to wake up as opposed to, I believe, women. And women is short as a contraction for womb man. We're all humans, and apparently that comes from the word soil, like humus humus is a rich soil, correct? So we're humans. And honest to God, I think us guys we literally are missing something, you know, even our chromosomes are XY as opposed to women XX. So there's a little bit of something missing. So having said that, I think this is why so many women are on the front lines, and Dharmendra was just in the last meeting. By the way, I listen in on YouTube. I really appreciate everything everybody's said and the openness that everybody's displayed. And for example, I'm late today because I got mixed up. The time that it ends, I thought was the start time. So then I realized, oh. So anyway, just before coming here, I was actually transcribing what Dharmendra had said about this whole industrial animal abuse system that, honest to God, I didn't recognize until about a year ago. Really, you know, I started like, yeah, there's, you know, must not be a nice place to work kind of thing, but no idea of the brutality of this system. But anyway, Dharmendra was talking about how he sees this as the whole reason for the state of continuous warfare that we experience on this planet. So my shadow is probably I take too long to gather information. Like I just was transcribing, as I said, what Dharmendra was saying and Sarah. And so I've got binders of notes and I'm trying to get it compiled. So shadow for me is procrastination. Shadow is, you know, I could research and write until the Titanic has sunk. So that's a definite shadow. And then, as I said, coming to terms with the fact that I'm a bit dense, it takes me a bit of time to realize what's going on. So obviously vegan people have been more attuned for a lot longer than most of everybody else, right? And it's only for the past year that I thought, okay, I can cut out eating meat and dairy. Dairy wasn't a big issue for me because it doesn't sit well with me, but I was pretty much ignorant, or not knowing, I should say, not knowing about dairy. I just thought the cows just happily, you know, went out and ate grass and happily walked in to be milked and, you know, back and forth like the storybooks. So a bit dense is also my shadow. Now my gift is I'm not afraid to talk about existential issues, serious existential issues. And I've been grappling with an event from 1976, which sort of has haunted me for a long time. And that was when I had the privilege to go with my grade 11 class to the Soviet Union, which is now Russia. And this girl, we were at an event, and a girl about my age, 16 at the time, she gives me a postcard, and on the postcard there's this moose, and I'm thinking, oh, that's neat. I'm in Canada, we got moose here, they got moose there, that's interesting. And then on the other side it said peace and friendship, and then the next words out of her mouth was, why does your country want to destroy my country? And I'm like, what? But there was some sort of almost like psychogenic moment there, because I just really remember looking at her thinking, what are you talking about, kind of thing. And it so disconcerted me that I regret to this day that when I got home, I threw that postcard out. And so ever since I've been wondering, well, because I thought she was just kind of a little bit like not very attuned to the truth, let's say, for a number of reasons. But over time, realizing, well, there's a lot of stuff going on. And so war and peace has been something I've been thinking about and really wanting to attend to, because I threw that out. I feel, it's kind of a shadow side of me. What a beautiful thing for somebody to give you a postcard. So anyway. That's why what Dharmendra said, really. It's really important. Thank you. I'll just pause.
That's a really deep question. So why does your country want to destroy my country? Because we're all part of the space that we're in. So whatever we can do to help it a better space, I think that's what we're all feeling on a super deep level right now. I think a lot of people have been aiming for this for so long, or feeling it percolate through, but they didn't know how to do it. And I think we're discovering how to come into a better vibration globally now. And that's a lot of our dreams, and we all have our parts and we're doing it.
I think that the indoctrination that we all had, we were all afraid of Russia. And, in that time too, we thought that Russia was after us and they think that we're after them. And there's probably some truth to both of that. But,
Well, I literally had people attacked me, literally. So every time I came out, I was attacked. So I was very afraid. But I learned to have good people around me.
I would like to say something. I would like to say, Miles, I so felt you, and thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that so much. It was really beautiful. I want you to know that. My big hug, virtual hug.
yeah, I second that. Thank you so much, Miles.
Yeah, I think you whispered through all our hearts there. You kind of did. That's what I love about you, Miles. You come in and you just do stuff like that. You just kind of sneak right into people's heart. You go poof, and then everybody goes, "Whoa!" It's like, "Oh yeah, okay, he's here."
Well, I would like to share on that, because I have watched Miles in the last year of his journey on veganism. When he first was on the meetings with Jamin Shively and doing whatever and exposing himself out. So I've known about Miles I've seen his transformation, his journey, his first year in veganism, right, Miles? I mean, I've been connected with you in your first year.
Yeah,
so,
and thanks for the encouragement, because I often
you what?
You might be having a connection problem.
Yeah, you're cutting out.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
down, but there's so much deception going on, and this is like the fact. Like, I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I'm just half an hour north of what is it probably still is the worst site for this virus outbreak in all of North America. It's a big Cargill slaughterhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's reprehensible. Like, Justin Trudeau, our prime minister.
Yeah, I know all about his dumbass. Anyway, everybody fell in love with him because he was so young and cute, and then he turned out to be a dick. Anyway, sorry.
He's actually talking, not realizing we can't hear him.
Oh, sorry about that.
There you are.
Pardon me. I got to get really close. Are you hearing me now?
Yes.
So what I was saying was that our Prime Minister correctly, justifiably so, says, yes, we have room and bring refugees from the Middle East and such. And that all gives Canada good press. But then if they're being sent to this Cargill plant, which is half an hour south of where I live, to have to work in these horrible conditions, well, that's not treating people with respect. And I'm shocked, I was shocked to learn that there's certain jobs that people who employ refugees or new immigrants or sponsored people can actually pay them less than minimum wage. And I was like, what? But fortunately that got exposed and it was changed, is my understanding. But what I'm getting at is there's so much stuff going on that we don't know. It's a lot of deception, obfuscation, and as somebody said, if there were glass walls on these slaughterhouses, they would be shut down ASAP, but they have legal protections, as you all know, to prevent people from documenting what's going on. Like how the heck they get away with it. And these are mostly privately, family-owned, privately held mega corporations. So yeah, it's quite a revelation. And once I met Dr. Rao and started to learn more about this and the effects on everything from ill health, pandemics, pollution, ecological destruction, and global warming, it's like, okay, this is craziness and we need to expose it. So kudos to everybody here.
And Darby and I live like just a few miles from Dr. Rao, right? And Sarah Siegel, Sarah Siegel, right? Activist. And she's the one who jumped the stage at one of the Biden, what do you call them, rallies? And also Bernie Sanders. And she's a you know who she is. She's on Jamin stuff. Yeah, Sarah Siegel, her.
Yeah, actually, I dropped in on a Culver City, California Toastmasters Club, and it's a vegan Toastmasters, and Sarah's a member. So I was just with her on the weekend in a Zoom meeting.
You know what? I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Miles, but I got to do something right now because I just want to check in with everybody here. That we're not like just going into like a chat, but that we're staying focused, that maybe people need to also intervene and connect, that you know what I mean? Because that's kind of, yeah. So I want to bring it back to that. I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, for God's sakes, but I just want to bring it back to maybe, I don't want to go into a big social thing. And I love you, Miles, but you know what I mean.
Now, what I want to do, though, is I want to shift because Miles is doing a really cool thing, which is kind of the side. When you get into the gift, there's a place where you get into a very deep realization about the shadow. So even though it seems like the things Miles is realizing is, more like shadow stuff, it's not really, because what's happening is, as Stephen expressed himself, and this is for the benefit also of the people who are going to watch this later on replay, is there's a deep attunement going on. And there's a deep attunement to the truth. And sadly, one of the deeper, I guess you could call it, capacities of the gift is to see the shadow without any covering anymore, just to see it as it is. And what Miles was describing is the burgeoning realization of the depth of darkness that's happening in these kind of places, the slaughterhouses. And not just that, but the powers that be that literally subsidize and keep these things afloat at all costs in order to, because they know that the way they rule the world is through divide and conquer, fear, violence, and all those things. And eating animals is one of the most powerful ways to keep everybody in that frequency. death and suffering and fear and pain and horror and terror, it's going to be easy to provoke that in you, and then once that's up, to direct you to use that energy against supposed enemies and that kind of thing. So
you just nailed it.
And yeah, and so strange. So thank you, Miles, because I want people to realize there, especially like I say, people who are going to be viewing this later, that this is a very deep level in attunement, and we're about to go. It's really the entrance into the sitter now, because once you finally get the true nature of the gift, which is to when you can absorb and totally accept the shadow without any reservations and take it all the way in. That's the moment you'll step into the sitter. Because unless you've absorbed all the darkness, the light isn't going to come. Because where's it going to come? If it doesn't have a dark, that's what light, and that's why light and darkness, the dance is so beautiful. The gift is like the rain, shadow is like the darkness. But in the end, it's not a bad darkness. It's just mystery. When shadow is no longer something that's negative, it just becomes a mystery that the light, the siddha, can go through the rainbow of the gift and into the darkness, and then the darkness can come back through the rainbow of the gift and up into the light of the siddha. So just to give some perspective, and I'm going to open the siddha space now, because we've been going like hour and 45 minutes, and so we're getting toward the end. But not that we need to hurry. If people have in the siddha, this is a very beautiful life code, and obviously it's about circles and circles of truth like this. That's really what this life code is all about, entering that circle and letting that circle enter into you. So at this point, as we always do with the siddha space, I open space to the higher and ask for help from above as I open the present moment, so that all of our beings can be in one synchronous unity, one pulse, one expression of the universal life force of all its levels of intelligence, of which we can all just dance with right now, however we feel. Now, it doesn't matter from the siddha space to look at shadow, gift, or siddha. It's all the same thing. It's all about witnessing the truth wherever it shows up. So I'm just gonna, because I kept this up tonight because I like these little blurbs here. So and if anybody's curious, I'm the author of all this stuff. I don't get anything I do in these meetings from anybody else. Everything I read at the beginning and all of it is something I created. So this is the siddha of the whisperer, and this brings us into the realm of the siddha of this life code functioning through the presence of our higher self, which is named here as the whisperer. And with that principle in mind, this siddha unlocks the very source of the whispering capacity in man to be able to enter into communication with any and all forms of intelligence existing within the multidimensional nature of the universe. Funny enough, the way I discovered the entry into the siddha was with circles, and circles within circles, et cetera, et cetera. Because once I realized, I got the concept of a circle is something that is continuous, and everything within that sphere is connected. And so that was easy in the beginning, because I realized my family was a circle. And so it was easy to see that. And then of course we all know about our circle of friends. That's a normal term, right? We have a circle of friends. But when it comes to and what we've been doing attuning here is we've been getting attuned to stuff, especially at the end there with Miles, was really bringing out very beautifully the horrors of what it is to be attuned to our brothers and sisters in the animal world. Yikes. But that's what this gift is about. First we attune to our neighbors, then we attune to all forms of life. And then we're ready to attune to all types of intelligence in the universe. So when we come into this space, I invite all of us into this space, and with your intent right now, you just call through your intelligence, any type of higher intelligence that wishes to communicate with you in such a way that you become the voice of that intelligence in this space. That's what this life code at the siddha level is about. That's what the whispering capacity is. You enter into such a deep attunement even if you can't see it, you know, if you simply call with intent a higher form of intelligence, existence will respond, and it will bring through you that higher form of intelligence. Even if it's not obvious, something will come out of you, and it will touch people in ways you don't know. And in this meeting, it's absolutely supported. I won't say safe because it's beyond that. It's a supported strongly, powerfully, with energy and zeal, that we all stand in that kind of a space, and that it is a real space. And it is like with animals and their instincts, it's with us in our illumination, because we humans can also share. We're the caretakers on this planet for all forms of life. And then there are beings that also look after us. And what I've learned is that those beings are a lot like some of us, but not like most of us, in the sense that they would love us to come just sit with them and resonate in harmony with them, higher forms of intelligence. And that we can do that anytime we want. And it's a very, to me, this is, since it's the Fellowship of Humanity, which is the original name of this life code back when it first came into the world 5,000 years ago through the Chinese I Ching, the 13th hexagram. It's very much about like the feeling of sitting around a fire in the evening under the stars and touching spirit in a way that we all know what that is. We all know that mystery can come through, you know. And it's also what brings out strange games with shadows and telling scary stories around when we're kids. But as adults, we can also tell beautiful stories about connections, not with scary beings, but with loving, compassionate, great, and miraculous, mythological, incredible beings. Because there have to be those kind of beings. Otherwise, where's all this beauty coming from? We're certainly not creating it, most of humanity, but something is allowing the things to flower the way they do, and the birds to fly the way they do in harmony, and the fish and how they move, and everything moves with such a synchronicity and beauty, and as one, even though it's a whole group of different, and those beings are higher forms of intelligence that are responsible for doing that. They create the availability of intelligence. If you can even stretch your mind and realize they literally do that, like we build buildings, they create platforms of intelligence that other beings can use to guide them into their experiences through life, and allow them to be in harmony with many thousands of others of them, and they all do it in perfect, thousands of them in perfect synchronicity, making beautiful patterns through the air and the water, and highly trained troops, dance troops can do it too. But look what it takes them to do it when animals don't even have to train; they can just do it. Why? Because they're totally in attunement with the universal life force.
And humans claim speciesism.
Right. They pretend that they actually have it over us. But really, if you look at what's really going on, then like what Amir said, and that's definitely a siddha understanding. You have to whisper a bit. You have to whisper a bit with life to pull the shadow up and see it in the siddha space, you know? Because that's also part of what the siddha space is. It's not just about the higher beings. It's also about seeing, like higher beings, what the shadow looks like as a higher being, because that's also possible here. So I just opened up a bunch of different notes and what the siddha space is about, but who is moved and touched, that's who I would invite into the space. What's touching you, what's moving you about the whispering.
I'll go if that's okay. Oh, it's so beautiful. I love how, I don't know if esoteric is the right word, but I love how esoteric we kind of become in this, in these meetings, and talking about higher beings and things. It's very thrilling for me. Yeah, as I said, we've with Paradise Rising, we've really now been able to let go of some things that we've been doing that have just been part of that chapter, and it's just moving into a new phase. And part of that new phase is really connecting with what I've been working with for a long time, and now is just becoming much more natural, and part of my being is connecting with animal spirits in a way that I really want to bring into public consciousness, I guess, in a way. But not only animal spirits, but now really connecting with higher beings and connecting with the angels and other dimensions, other frequencies. And yeah, something that I've been part of an online group to learn more about this kind of thing. And one of the people who was interviewed in one of these groups recently is just such an incredibly powerful being. And she said something that just gave me this light bulb moment, like, ding, okay, that's something that I've had throughout my whole life, and now I understand why. And yeah, it seems probably very, to my previous lifetime, I would have thought of this as super esoteric and woo-woo and weird, but really connecting with like Lemurian energies, and it's all just flooding through. It's flooding into my life, and it's incredible. And this Lemurian energy, which she said that sparked this in me, was something about the inner earth, elven races. And if I'd heard that even last year, I would have been like, what the fuck? But it really makes so much sense to me now, because it's something that's been a theme throughout my whole life. Connection with the elven races, connection with like what I would have seen as like a fantasy kind of thing. But it's just been so subtly woven into my life. And now it just feels like this, it's just really, really calling me to connect. And I've been doing that, and it all just makes so much sense to me.
You say Lemurian, I say Reiki.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's all the same thing. It's energy work. It's
yeah,
I can totally relate. You got it. You got it.
Is that in terms of because Lemurian, how I'm understanding it, is like part of our history, our story.
Well, it's all it's all part of the life force energy. And to really sum it up, it's all part of our life force energy, whatever makes us tick.
Yeah.
It is connected with like history. Yes, of course, that's like a thread. But in the bigger reality, yeah, that is just the life force energy moving. It uses a different face all the time. It's constantly going and going and going and spinning. It's doing whatever it does. It hits wherever it needs to hit for whatever purpose, to serve whatever need. And I mean need, not want. It just, that is the life force. It is, it really is connected.
Yeah, there's a couple of phases before the Lemurian phase. There's a, I forgot, it's called hyper something, and then the Polarian race. But what it is the universal life force was differentiating at that time. A lot of humans like to come in and say, we were that then, and then we became this, and then, but we weren't yet differentiated in the way we are now as individualities. We didn't perceive the world the way we do now. We were things that were still emerging as individual nodes of intelligence within the greater field of the universal life force. When we got to here in the materialistic, that's when everything became individualized. And now we're about to make the turn and start to reawaken. Back in the Lemurian time, the way it's conceived is not really correct, because it's saying that we were like these kind of beings back then, like we are now, like we do with everything. When we make movies, we try to go back into a time and be like we are now back in that time, but that doesn't work that way. We weren't anything like what we are now in the Lemurian time. We weren't as differentiated and as solid and as crystallized and as skillful materially back then. So the way we experienced and perceived and the senses we had, they weren't even as evolved yet to be able to even capture this dimension. We weren't even aware that this was a dimension yet, because it hadn't been crystallized through all the other experiences that were needed before we came to this dimension. So I wanted, this is a good place to open up some deeper siddha space here about circles that we participated in, but not like this, not like individuals in the way we're doing it now, which is a lot of people think we did all these magical things. They have a lot of fantasies. They're called higher emotional, what's the word? Yeah, higher emotional false imagination. You can actually tap into a higher place in ourselves that after you've worked on yourself for a long time, but it's not in touch with reality. It's kind of a projection of what we'd like to have thought we were back then to kind of validate where we are now without seeing really the bigger picture behind that. And so you have to understand that the way we evolved and came through, we were more like dream stuff back then in the time of Lemuria. You can't. So when people start to make all these imaginings about it and say all these stories about it, you got to be careful. And maybe, and the elves and these kind of creatures, but all that stuff, and the fact is Lemuria is still here now. All those lands are still here now, but they're not as crystallized forms of intelligence as you can tap into that now. But the question you got to ask yourself is, what would be the reason to do that except, and this is the life code to do it with, because it points to our past. So that's our cosmic past. So obviously there's some usefulness into tapping into when we were a more amorphous kind of energy field, rather than a very clear and defined and the way we are now as physical forms. So it's something to look into, but it's also good to understand, because in the opening that occurred for me, and to be able to tap into this stuff, I also was shown all the way back, past Lemuria and past all the way back and all that stuff. And I realized that way back then, we were not, we couldn't even have been as aware as we are now. There's no way, because we weren't as integrated as we are now. We look a lot at this time of materialization, and there's a lot of technological misuses, and all these tools we're getting, we don't really know how to use. But the existence always takes risks, and the universal life force always takes risks for those who are ready to evolve. We had to get into this definitive place because we need to be very defined as we expand back out now into those places that we were evolved out of. But now this time is discrete entities capable of making distinctions that we couldn't make before. So it's all in the plan. And there's a lot you could do in meditating about what I just said about why is that, but that's how the flow is moving. And now we're waking up to our solar plexus. We're going to decentralize from our head and the mental trap that we've been in our awareness for the last, I don't know, since our voices started to talk, 80,000 years. But now the next phase of evolution is a spiritual awareness, not a mental awareness. And that's in the now, and it includes, and it transcends time. And in transcending time, you can start to make contact with higher beings who were around and were like aware of these times, like the Lemurian times. Those beings can teach you. The higher beings we tap into with these meetings can teach you a lot about those times. But at the same time, a lot of those beings have never even been to this world yet. So there's something that's why all beings in existence like to work with us, because very few beings have actually been to this plane that we're on. And that's why this plane is so difficult to get together and to make work, and why so many mistakes are being made, and why there's animal cruelty, and why there's human cruelty, and why there's just, you name it, cruelty, is because this is one of the hardest places to maintain, because we have to handle all the layers here, including the physical. Most angels haven't been to the physical. They're very close to us. The more you awaken, the more you get your own personal ones too that are with you at all times. The less awake you are, you're just part of a group of hundreds that one or two angels manage. The more awake you become, you get to actually have one or two right with you all the time. Your brother and sister seraphims, and that's a reality. And because you've become individualized, you've become a singularity. And a singularity is something that can handle all of the different bodies you've been through, now through the physical. It's a physical that's going to give definition to all those previous spaces we've been in. So the only reason to go back into those previous spaces is now you can bring definition into them. And that's true evolution. So I hope I could bring that back around and give it some sense to you about why you might even want to go into a Lemurian energy field, consciousness diffusion, Akashic. It's in the Akashic field, so it's always there, so you can tap into it.
I have a question. What would be the point of going back to an undefined space as a defined being?
Because you'll give it definition, and then you'll find out what.
That's not going to be the same space anymore.
That's right, but it's going to be the same energy field and the same frequency and the same capacities and possibilities of consciousness are now going to be defined. So you could actually start to manifest very magical abilities like elves and other creatures who actually live in those places. That's their place where they be. Elementals and all that. They live there. That's their home. But it's not as defined as here. But yet it is as real as here. It's just not as defined.
I have a question. Lucy, did you feel like you said everything you wanted to say? It seemed like we kind of got diverted.
Not really, but yeah. Yeah, I guess so. One of the main reasons that I like a lot of what you've been saying, Domindra, really, it does resonate. Because that's what I've been researching, that's what I've been feeling into, that's what I've been finding myself through looking into it, through connecting with the energies and really feeling into it. And the point of doing that really is to be able to bring that energy of pure love and just light and goodness and hope and all those everything that I want to be able to move into, to embody and to bring into the world for animals and for humans is through turning the non-physical of that energy into the physical through art, through
I'm so sorry. I have to intervene. I just have to. Lucy, you were talking about what you want to do, and the one thing I didn't hear you say, and I thought you almost were going to say it, and this is why I have to intervene, is totally believe in yourself, totally trust in yourself, totally go for it. I mean, totally deeply go for it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It's definitely, I'm in that place now where I feel like I am able to just go for it and just embody, just step into my higher self and really allow that to channel through, and doing my best now to be that pure channel. And I find I self-sabotage a lot with food, with my eating, which blocks the flow of energy. But really, like, allowing it to channel through into my paintings, and that's really where I want to bring it into the physical. And one reason that I want to connect with those energies, and I want to understand more about Lemuria, and I want to understand what that is now, and also what we're moving into in terms of like shifting into a 5D kind of reality. Like, is that coming back into that space of less definition? Is that it's more unity consciousness, and it's the higher frequency bandwidth that we'll be in? Is that more of like an ethereal reality of being less defined and more spirit, that high vibration? I want to understand more of that so I can see where we're going. So yeah, if you have any
question for you, Lucy.
Yeah.
How does it feel to you now when we step into a higher frequency? Does it feel less defined or more defined?
Can I just intervene for a quick second? What does that mean about your eating? What are you referring to? What's wrong with your eating?
It's old habits and less conscious eating in terms of munching on things that I know isn't good for me, but I still do it.
Okay. The reason I ask is because I wondered if there was an eating disorder involved.
There has been in the past.
Okay, that's why I picked up on it. So I spent many years of my life with two different ones. So I picked up on that. So anyways, yeah,
Mhm.
I just wanted to bring that in because that's really important. That's a big part of you. And
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it has been. And I do, when I see myself, um, yeah, eating in certain ways, I can feel that there's like some descent into
right.
old patterns and
Yep,
old
yep,
paradigms.
yep,
But
yep,
it's not
yep.
so much like that now. It's more like it's still unconscious, but I'm a lot more conscious of it, and I'm aware of, yeah, it's not so much like a dangerous thing now.
That's great because I've been there. I've been in, eating disorder rehabs. So yeah, I went through anorexia big time.
Mhm.
And my daughter, I'm not going to get too lost in this because I want to hear what you have to say. But my daughter, um, I didn't find out I was pregnant with her till I was 7.5 months
Mm.
because I was 105 pounds, anorexic.
Mhm.
So I'll leave it at that. But yeah, so I went through anyway. I'm not. Well, why am I? Anyways, just picked up on something. I just want to, just.
Thank you. Mhm.
So more defined or less defined?
More defined, I think.
Mhm. Because the problem with the whole concept of bringing up things like 5D and stuff is it brings up the incorrect perception that we don't exist already in 5D. And we also exist up to 7. We can exist, well, there are beings that have been on this planet that have existed up to 90. But we can, all of us here, with the right training through what we're doing here, we can tune into up to 70. And so, but I understand what they're saying. It says, when will the whole world be in 5D? It may never be. I don't know that that's actually going to happen while we're in these forms. I don't know that these forms, when all of us on the whole planet step into 5D, will be these forms anymore. I don't see that as a possibility because these forms weren't built for that. So it's just interesting when people start, again, it's like Lemuria, these vague terms, Lemurian 5D, and I think people are having partial realizations in terms of that stuff. But um, the understanding of actually having, recollected all of your cosmic past, which happens through the Buddhic body, the fifth body, which is 5D. So it's literally connected with Lemuria, and where we're going right now is to reintegrate all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, but one other thing is we're still in the Siddha space, so I don't want this to devolve into conversation. That's why I keep trying to bring it back and stay on point with the things I see that are associated with the Siddha space.
And I totally agree with what you just said. That is so key, so important. How do we maintain that? Not just within the circle here, but out there. Good.
So Lucy, I, as we always do, I want just you're tapping into 5D right now, and by sharing your things about Lemuria and 5D. So you're tapping. That's the kind of like this. The 5D is really the entry between the gift and the Siddha. So I invite you to step into that space and kind of just come from that space. Now that you've kind of created the landscape that you're perusing in now, who are you in that space? Who are you? What do you want to share with us? Oh, 5D person. You know, that's what I support here. That you can do that
Thank
now.
you. Yeah, well, I definitely feel like I have, as all of us do, there's a calling, there's a mission that I'm here on earth to fulfill, to live out my truth in a way that helps the whole world shift into that higher frequency. Whatever that, I'm sure there's lots of misunderstandings and things around it, and I'm doing my best to understand fully. But as the artist and as the just a being of light that we all are, that's what I really want to tap into and step into. And as I said, I really feel this unity consciousness right now. I really feel having tapped into some form or some kind of frequency, like the numbers, so much alignment with repeating numbers, with patterns, with imagery, with codes. Just the other day, like so I've just come to stay with Jess, which is awesome. And the day that I left where I was before to come here, I turned off my computer and I turned off my phone while I started to pack, which I don't normally do, and I should be doing it a lot more, but I turned it all off, and then decided to turn on my laptop again for some music. And the first thing that I turned on, or I think I might have typed in Lemurian meditation music or something in the background, and it came up with this video, which was a Lemurian tuning fork sound plus some other beautiful sounds. But the image of it was exactly like, it just so unreal. It was the symbol that my friend, who basically a business partner, very close friend of mine, had somehow channeled over the last couple of years ago. He'd this image had come to him, and combined with that was the image that had come to me for the Paradise Rising logo, and combined into this one image that just suddenly popped up, having looked into the Lemurian thing. And the image was a Lemurian crystal symbol of love, fire. And so I didn't really know what that was, and I've just been looking into it and trying to understand. But it was just amazing, the timing of it and everything around that whole thing. So I just sat down and meditated, and it was just the most beautiful experience, diving into this energy that I'd been called to explore, because we'd both somehow channeled the visual aspect of it, the symbol. So yeah, it's just a really incredible experience, and really felt so much like confirmation, and moving forward with the energy of that into the new phase of Paradise Rising, the new phase of life for me, and everyone that I'm working with in that way. It's super exciting. So yeah.
Yeah, I can feel you're tapping into it now. That's nice. That's the awakening in the solar plexus, and it is connected with Lemuria. But it now, instead of Lemuria, was the place where what's going to awaken through us now is just being installed in us as a capacity prior to its actual being used.
Actually, I would like to say one thing, and I'm out. I don't think it's the one thing installed in us. I think it is our very being. I think we're meant to do just that. I think we're meant to explode, be alive, express, be who we are, be accepted. That was from the get-go. Yeah, I'm done.
It sounds like you're saying we're being upgraded. We're getting new software.
We are. That is what's happening, but it's in the Lemurian aspect of our being, which is the soul. It's basically I've been avoiding that word because people have a lot of connotations about what that means. There was a whole different thing when it was spirit, but you see, all these things had to solidify and become crystallized.
It's even worse when it's called enlightenment. Everybody has their idea about what enlightenment looks like, or is supposed to look like.
Exactly.
Like you end up all of a sudden one day you're enlightened, and it seemed to me that it's a journey of life.
Enlightenment to me is to find your true individuality. That's enlightenment. It's different for everybody. Not one size fits all. I've always had that philosophy. I don't believe in that. I mean, your enlightenment is your enlightenment. It's about being you. It's about finding you. What do we spend our whole goddamn life doing? Finding ourselves. I mean, really, come on. I mean, that's like the big thing. I'm still doing it. I still have to try and figure out how to do my activism to be most effective, you know? I mean, it's like I'm constantly, but the difference is now is that nobody's telling me I have to. I watch myself. And that's what I was telling Lucy Rose earlier. that I loved her whole talk, that what you shared about being observant. You know, you're observing like life, and you're seeing things in a different way, in so many different angles and ways. And that's exactly where I'm at. I mean, from everything, like I mentioned, to motherhood, whatever, and things are changing. And you know, the one good thing I get out of it all is that I get to be aware. I get to be awake. I get to pay attention. I get to make change. I get to learn. I'm not stuck in a fucking mud hole. No, wait. I take that back, because pigs love it. And I love pigs. Okay, with my ankle down the fucking toilet. I'm not stuck there. You know what I mean? So no, that means a lot to me, because it's like, you know, I just, you know, if it creates change in the moment, I'm on it. I can get in these meetings and express myself and just say whatever the hell, or not. Been silent. Last week I was silent, didn't say a freaking word, except to let everybody know that Lucy was okay. We lost Lucy in the connection. So I wanted everybody, by the way, darling, I wanted everybody to know that you didn't just hang up, that you're having internet problems, and you had said something to me that you really got something out of that meeting, and I relayed it to the group. And the beauty of me relying it to the group was other people in the group said, and Evan was the first one to say, "Oh, thank you for sharing that. So did I." So, you know, it all works.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is anybody else feel want to tap into the sitter space before we end?
I'll give it a go.
Okay.
How's my audio?
Good at this point.
Okay. So the circle that you're saying Siddha relates to, I connected right away with round dance. I'm in Alberta, and I'm on the traditional territory of the Blackfoot or the Nitsitape people. And I've, because of my concern about peace, you know, and thinking of Einstein in 1946, which was right after the first atomic weapon was blown up, he said in the New York Times, we have to change our way of thinking. And so I've been meditating on that. And I thought, well, what other ways of thinking are there? And I thought, well, there's our Indigenous people who in Canada have been terribly treated. In fact, it's genocide, and I'm not making that word up. That's a government judgment made that the word is genocide. So anyway, I've been attending and volunteering, and one of the things that really struck me was how open and friendly they are. So one of the things that, and this is all about the education of me, and I'm just being educated by all of you, you know, so I'm just bringing myself here. But I was very much, this is a great message that is often perpetrated around. I don't know if you can read it, but it's what the church basically says, and that says it's all about Jesus, which is a pretty nice sentiment, but you know, it's wrong. And it's through the First Nations, my Indigenous neighbors, that they taught me that the message is be a friend to all our relations. And I'm like a traveler who got beaten up, and they came along as good Samaritans and healed me with that. Because I will read the Bible to anybody, and I'll say that even Jesus would say it's not all about him. It's about being a friend to all our relations. And their round dance, I'll just close with this, is just a beautiful thing. And we have to remember that, yes, they eat meat, or they eat meat. And it was traditional that they had to have meat to get through winters to survive. But 200 years ago, if you were here, there was 200 years ago, there were 60 million bison or buffalo stampeding around. There were grizzly bears right out on the plains. Now the grizzly is just sequestered up in the high Rocky Mountains. You know, we've destroyed all these animals. But anyway, they have great reverence, and they see them as relations and teachers, all the other animals, and that we're no better than them. So anyway, that is the revelation I had. And the round dance is an amazing gathering of friends, and they open it. They say everybody can come up and dance, and it's a very simple dance.
We lost your sound. We lost your sound, Miles. Can't hear you.
I think he muted him. I think he went to mute.
No, he's not. He's not on mute.
Oh, he's still
Nope,
talking. Nope. Okay.
No, it just his sound is going out.
Oh, where he's from. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I better forget we're all from all kinds of places.
Okay. So what I think until we get him back, Nancy, are you done? Or would you like to share anything this evening to contribute to our unity?
Nancy looks comfy, and she should go for it. Why not? We can all see you.
Nancy, you're on mute.
You're on mute, girl.
I was laughing. I said, I'm speechless. Can you believe that? I feel like I said a lot, and I'm exhausted too. And I've so much appreciated this. It just brought me back into my heart space. You know, really. And it's fascinating listening to about the luminary. I've never heard of that before. And how, for some reason, it made sense to me when you said that we were not these defined beings. And I thought about our, ancestors, how the human evolution, they have all these different types of pre-humans and humans, and then there's that missing link. They don't really know how humans became humans. So it kind of made sense to me. It's like, oh yeah, then something crystallized in this form, and it's very strange that we're a very young species, and I feel like humanity is going through its terrible twos, like behaving that way, and that's really what it's. We're a very infant species. We're a very young species, but some of us, I guess would be called older souls. I don't know. On one hand, it kind of blows my mind how some people act, and then on the other hand, I can say, yeah, I'm not surprised. But honestly, even, Trump still surprises me with some of his antics. You think I wouldn't, but I'm like, did he really say that?
I feel like I've been fucked up the ass so much with that motherfucker. Anyway, sorry.
I like that. You brought the humor, and that's perfect.
Yeah.
So what I want to.
That's what I was, thinking. That it's something in that really resonated with me. It's like, oh yeah, I kind of almost like remember that somehow. A part of me knew that, and then when you brought it up, it just made so much sense. Not in a logical way, but
can I say something? May I? What resonates in me with what you shared, Nancy, is totally about speciesism. It's all about that, and the message I try to get across There's so many people out there in the world, and it's not, yeah, I mean, it's not about their food choices so much. Of course, but wait. It's about, okay, my attitude is animals in nature follow the laws of existence. I mean, they just go, and it's so in nature, they're so in tune. Humanity is not, human beings are not. They're so out of touch with nature. That is the biggest problem. That is our biggest dilemma. How do we get freaking humanity in touch? They want to claim speciesism, really? They want to claim like they're the more intelligent, better, species, but they're not. They're the lower, because they don't even know how to follow the winters, or or how to eat or forage or anything. It's like humanity is the lowest level mentality ever. So the fact that speciesism even exists is so, I'm going to say it, fucking beyond me. I don't get it. I mean, really? Humanity fucking up this planet, murdering, wars, animals, everything, exploitation, rape, you name it. And they claim to be the greater species, really? I mean, I have had it up to my goddamn eyebrows, as my dad would say to me back in like 1964. I've had it up to my eyeballs with this crap.
All right, at this point, I want to bring it into like a final landing, and I would like, if Lucy feels like it, Lucy, I'd like you to just maybe say, kind of synthesize and bring this into like a closing, and if you feel like it, just lead, and then I'm going to stop the recording. If you feel like it, I think I get the sense that you could do a nice ending tonight, in a really, the crescendo of the evening.
Yes.
Do my best.
The crescendo of the evening. I lost my earplugs there. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like we've kind of really moved through the space of the shadow, the gift, the sitter, and what really the thread that kind of comes through it is that attunement. For me, it's like the tuning fork. It's this kind of sense of the swan song, in a way, like the 7 chakras, the 7 notes, and then coming up into the octave, like the how it all kind of correlates as frequencies in different forms. And I feel like we've moved through that shadow of remind me, the shadow of discontinuity. Yeah, which Nancy, you beautifully mentioned, is the concept of unity, continuity, and then the dissonance of it, of not having it flowing and working as it should, and then coming into the attunement, and we're really attuning our beings, cleansing our beings collectively, hopefully, as well. And as you said, Amira, is that, I think Amira, you said that a lot of the slaughterhouses are closing down, which is amazing, and people are awakening to the human aspect of how obviously atrocious animal agriculture and the military industrial complex is, and attuning with our environments, and then coming into the sitter space, and being able to connect with our higher selves, and collectively, again, with our higher consciousness, and that unity consciousness, and really, collectively moving into a more positive space. So I feel like it's been a very, very interesting and profound meeting for me, at least. So thank you all so much for your part in that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I would like to say, Lucy, Nailing it. Keep going, girl. Trust. No, really, really, honey.